Time for an update from Capital Metals. Greg Martyr is in charge there. The company's got the Taprobane mineral sands project in Sri Lanka. Greg, very good to see you.
You too, Alistair. Thanks for
Um,
following the story over these years.
no, it's a pleasure. It's been a very interesting story to follow. So tell us a little bit about the project that you have and also what the latest developments are.
Yeah, indeed. So we have the Taprobane Minerals Project in the east. It's the most eastern point of Sri Lanka, and we have the project runs over 60 kilometers of strike length. So we have been there actually since 2016. We've spent nearly $15 million on the project, just developing it. We've got an environmental impact assessment approved. We have two mining licenses. We need one more mining license before we'll go into construction. And we are in the process of raising the final amount of capex to get to that final investment decision, that FID point. And we've just got that two approvals left, two key approvals before we can actually start turning soil, hopefully in the Q1 of next year. The project itself, it's one of the highest grade projects, not just highest grade undeveloped, one of the highest grade projects in the world. So our grade is 17.6%. Um, and the resource is actually only drilled down to an average of 1.6 meters. And that was drilling over 2015, 2016, and that was done with a hand auger. And the hand auger couldn't go below the water table. So the water table varies, but the average depth of the holes is 1.6 meters. And we've been wanting to get in there and do deep drilling for a long time. And so, we have the funds and now we have all the approvals to start that drilling. We started it earlier this year and we did a 170 hole campaign. So instead of the 1.6 meter average, we were getting down to 15 meters. And, in parts, we were seeing mineralization of 60% compared to our sort of 17% resource grade. That's obviously not everywhere, but very, very encouraging. We're about to do a resource upgrade of that area that we drilled, and that campaign was focusing on the initial mining area. We were doing that to understand the exploration upside. So a lot of it was moving laterally to the west and also at depth, but also for just getting more drilling, shorter spacing, so that we could do the mine plan for when we start mining in sort of later next year.
So it sounds like you've got plenty of resource or potential resource to mine there, Greg. I mean, you've already got quite a lot in established numbers, I believe, but you're going to have a significant amount more.
Yeah, so we've got 17 million tons in officially in the resource, but we've got over 1,000 holes actually that we've drilled that have not been included in the resource. The other thing that we have is the cutoff grade. Our cutoff grade is at 5%, and it's which is interesting because the global average grade for mineral sands is actually less than 5%. So for those that don't understand what a cutoff is, we basically say everything below 5% is waste. So our waste is still higher grade than the global average. That sort of puts it into perspective. With the drilling that we've been doing, we're actually our technical expert who does the JORC resource calculations is happy that we can reduce that cutoff to 2%. And so that of itself, if you think of it, if it's close to linear, that should more than double the resource. It will reduce the grade, just because it will reduce the average grade. But then that's not including sort of the additional drilling that goes into it. So look, we're quite at the moment it's a 10-year mine life. I'm quite confident this is going to be 30 plus year mine life.
And what can you tell us about the economics? Because I mean, the way you talk about the cutoff grade there make the economics sound very attractive from an initial entry point in this conversation. What more can you say about how economic the project will be?
Yeah, we've actually just updated the financial model. We did that with the help of Mineral Technologies, and they're one of the preeminent, mineral concentrate, mineral sands technical experts in the world, based in Queensland. And that model has had a substantial uptick in the net present value, but it's also really refined the costs. So this is incredibly simple mining. Heavy minerals, basically the first stage we're going into is to produce a concentrate. And it's all based on gravity. So we basically put the ore and we put it on belts up into a plant. There's pictures of the plant on the website and the latest, that last RNS that we put out. And it's a slurry that goes down through a series of spirals, and the heavy black stuff goes to the inside, and the yellow stuff is on the outside. And you run that through a few times, and through that process, that 17% grade will go to over 95% grade. So you're getting through a very low cost process, you're getting a massive uptick in valuation. Our internal rate of return is over 70%. That's over the life of the project. But just for the concentrate section, it's probably going to be close. Alone is probably closer to 100%. Our margin, it's a bit of an opaque market, the mineral sands. It's all done by sort of private agreements. Our concentrate at the moment is probably going to get in the vicinity of 250 to $300 a ton, and we'll produce in stage one 125,000 tons of concentrate. So roughly, 35 to 40 million of revenue, and our costs will be under 20 million. So pretty healthy margin.
Yeah, very interesting. So you talk about an opaque market there, Greg. Who do you think will be buying this product?
So there's the biggest buyers are in China. They've got huge capacity for the sulfate pigment that and also the chloride pigment. So we go into those pigment markets. That's probably the predominant use, mainly for paints and for ceramics. There's also some exotic uses in titanium, some critical mineral uses in titanium metal and zircon sponge and things. Um, but the Chinese are the biggest. There's a growing demand out of the Middle East, a little bit out of Europe. It's an incredibly clean product. The issue in mineral sands is often when there's slimes, and slimes is like a clay, and we have no slimes basically. So it's very clean. It's been washed by Mother Earth, washed by the ocean, and as I said, very simple processing. So it's we have no issue about being able to sell to off takers. We know there's a long list of parties that want it. At the moment, our conversations are focused on off takers that actually can provide some equity funding and also prepayment, which is so you might get a prepayment for 6 to 12 months of offtake, and then in exchange you'd give them exclusivity over a percentage of the production for an agreed period.
So what can you tell us about the funding situation at this point? You mentioned that you're moving towards a final investment decision, and you've just spoken about potential offtake partners. Can you tell us how the financing will all sort of fit together?
So when we did the last model we did was for the preliminary economic assessment, the PEA in 2022. And that had a forecast that we would need 34 million to get us to profitability. So we refined that, and we went out and we did all the studies, had the conversations, and sort of updated pricing. We've reduced the capex that we need to get into that first stage of production. We announced it was 20.9 million a few months ago. We actually, based on even more recent conversations, we believe it'll be even less than that. So, but for a contingency point of view, working capital, we're looking to raise 25 million. At the moment, we're focusing on doing that out of Sri Lanka, and we've got conversations on with Sri Lankan banks that are reasonably advanced, and also equity out of Sri Lanka into the project. But on top of that, we've got alternatives with those strategics, the off-takers for equity funding and prepayment funding, and also talking to some credit banks outside of Sri Lanka.
I mean, it's not
And
a
the
cheap.
reason that we're focusing on Sri Lankan funding source, I think the more funding you can get out of the country, the more important the asset is in the country. And what we did earlier this year, and we've been trying to do this for many years, is we brought on a Sri Lankan partner and a group called Ambient Capital. and they've arranged, they put in $4 million, them and some co-investors. And so they now have between them a bit over 20% of the company, and they are, incredibly helpful in country. They have a fund. They actually own 10% of three banks in Sri Lanka, so they know the banking system very well. And and as part of that, we got two new directors. One by the name of Savant Sebastian. He actually was brought up and educated in Australia, so we speak each other's language pretty well. He has quite a strong Australian accent. But also we brought on a co-investor with them is and a shareholder of Ambien is Aravinda De Silva, who is the cricketer that basically almost single-handedly won the World Cup back in 1996 for Sri Lanka the first time. So very well regarded, obviously for his cricket prowess, but is now is equally regarded for his business prowess and his philanthropic ventures in country. So really happy with those guys on board, and they are definitely helping in that funding conversation. It's not a huge ask, It's not often that you hear that it's only 25 million to get a mining project into production. So we're fingers crossed, working hard. We're working to get that all in place by the end of the year.
Yeah, very, very interesting indeed. So, as we draw it to a close, Greg, perhaps we could just tick off the likely news flow from the company. We've alluded to it during the course of this conversation, but perhaps you could just lay out a couple of sort of bullet points in bullet point fashion, what the news flow is likely to look like, as you move forward towards production.
So, the ongoing drilling, we will constantly put out results on that as that comes through. The upgrade and the resource, hopefully we'll put that out in October. And of course, the approvals leading the government approvals. And we've got the new national minerals policy that's coming out in the next, certainly within the next month. They've been working on that for years. That'll come out. And for us, that'll show that the country is open for business for mining, which is a huge signal. They haven't handled that very well, I think, over the last 10 years. This government is clearly going to show that it's proactive in that space. So the approvals coming through, and then financing, and that the thing that's in our control is all those studies that we're working on with Mineral Technologies and Access Group, which is one of the preeminent engineering groups in Sri Lanka. So yeah, it'll be all hands on deck and all focus on and as we tick the boxes, releasing on that FID results.
Well, we look forward to you guys making lots of progress in the coming months. Thanks very much for taking the time to talk us through the latest from Capital Metals, Greg Martyr.
My pleasure. Thanks, Alistair.